Hi everyone, this is Prashad Parthiban. Today I am going to talk about the differences between statutory bond versus non-statutory bond, and this topic is also going to be coming under surety bond. Initially we have seen the differences between contract bond versus commercial bond. Both this bond can come under either one of this category. They can come under statutory bond or non-statutory bond. Now let's see a simple definition of what is mean by statutory bond. It's a mandatory bond required by law, meaning the government entities and law, they require this bond when you as a contractor does something for a government entities. Not only for government entities, anything that relates to law and governments, we need this bond, statutory bond. Whereas non-statutory bond is nothing but a voluntary bond created as a part of private contract. Government is not going to mandate this, right? It's up to the private companies. For some reason they wanted some kind of surety and they need this non-statutory bond. Now, why do we need this? It ensures that there is a compliance with legal or regulatory requirements. As I told you, when you are a contractor, when you are doing a job with your government, building a government building or something else related to government entities, the law requires that you need this bond. Whereas non-statutory bond is where it ensures the fulfillment of contractual terms or agreements. So if you are having a contract with a private company for doing certain things, same thing, right? If you are building a private building, then still you need some kind of bond so that if your performance is not up to this mark, then this bond will help the obligee. Now, as I told you, it protects public regulatory authorities or government, right? In case of statutory bond, whereas non-statutory bond, it protects the private parties involved in the contract. In short, if you see the differences, it's very clear. This is related to a bond where government is making sure that it's a must required when you do some transactions. Whereas this non-statutory bond is nothing to do with government, it is to do with private companies. So, if you see some examples, right? Contractor bond required by law for public projects. Most of you know there are a lot of buildings that are raised for the government entities. If you are a contractor who is doing those construction works, you need a contract bond that comes under statutory bond because government needs that. Similarly, a custom bond for importing goods. Most of you know if you are importing from India to USA or from a different country to USA, sometimes they may ask you for custom bonds so that the goods are of good quality and it's of safe in nature, right? Whereas if you see non-statutory bond, right? Bond ensuring the rent payments to the landlord, right? Sometimes landlord will ask for the tenants to make sure they have a bond so that if they fail to pay the rent, this bond can help them to recover the failed payments. Or bond ensuring timely delivery of goods to the clients, like if it's a private client, to make sure that the goods are delivered on time by the supplier, they may ask this bond. If it's failed on time, then they can use this bond to recoup the losses. In short, statutory bond is nothing but a bond that is required by the government entities for their any construction project or anything related to governments or laws. Whereas non-statutory bond is nothing but it's required by private companies, it's not mandated by the governments. So both of them comes under surety line of business, and if you take contract bond or commercial bond, either of them can come under any category. Like if you have a contract that you are doing for government entities, then it comes under statutory bond. Whereas if you are doing a contract for private companies, it can come under non-statutory. Similarly, for commercial bond, if you are having any business transactions which are related to government, it comes under statutory. If it is not related to governments, then it comes under non-statutory bond. Once again, thank you so much for your continuous support. Have a great day. Bye-bye.